distinguished visitors that are going to help talk to us today. And they're going to provide both a, sorry, I got to get rid of this little note. They're going to provide strategic and practical information and advice to our community to help as we work to diversify our membership, our trainees, species represented, and in our work with standards in the world of genomics and genetics. The 1890 land grant system is a unique resource that can help us to achieve many of these goals. Today, we will be informed and inspired by Drs. Alton Thompson and Lewis Whitesides. Dr. Thompson is the Executive Director for the Association of the 1890 Research Directors, providing leadership and coordination in developing multi-state and national priorities and implementing responses for the 1890 Regional Research Agenda to the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. Joining Dr. Thompson is Dr. Lewis Whitesides, Vice President and Executive Director of the 1890 Land Grant Program. Dr. Whitesides is an accomplished higher education administration professional. The 1890s are poised for the next level of development with long overdue investments that have recently come through for them. So this is a great time for us to engage with the 1890 community. And finally, we are honored to hear the practical advice from Dr. Pat Millner, a research microbiologist with the USDA Agricultural Research Service. Dr. Millner successfully established a fruitful relationship with the 1890s. She was recognized in 2020 for her work in this area with an agency-level Outreach, Diversity, and Equal Opportunity Award for her outstanding accomplishments in coordinating, conducting, and fostering collaborative food safety research and experiential training opportunities for students and faculty between ARS scientists and the 1890 land grant institutions. We will first hear a joint presentation from Drs. Thompson and Whitesides, to be followed with Dr. Millner. We'll hold questions until the end, and please go ahead and put your questions in the chat, and then we'll bring them all together at the end of the presentation. There should be plenty of time for a good discussion. So from this, Dr. Thompson and Whitesides, please progress.
Lewis, you want me to start or you want to start?
So you can go ahead.
Okay. First of all, let me thank you for the invitation. We look forward to talking to this group, AgBioData group. Lewis and I are respectively chair and executive director of the Association of Research Directors. And we really look forward to, I'll say, sustaining and maintaining a relationship with the 1890 community. ARS is a valued partner. We want to continue that relationship. So essentially, Lewis and I are going to talk a little bit about the our strategic agenda, and then areas of collaboration, and then what the needs of the 1890s into the process. Again, thanks for the invitation. And we look forward to the Q&A once the session is over. Next slide, please. This is our strategic plan. We call it Bold Transformation 2020. This is how we sort of focus our research and also guide us on a daily basis. Essentially, our strategic agenda, which we will see the 7 program goals in a few minutes. Yes, we call it the 5 Ps. It's about people, programs, partnerships, platform, and places. And this particular session is about partnerships. ARS has been a valued partner for years. We want to sort of maintain that relationship and see how we can sort of embellish that relationship. But ARS has been a partner for years, and we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about our strategic agenda. Again, it's based on the credible talents of many people who will position 1890s in, for this next giant step, as we call it. And our strategic agenda is a framework for a call for actions. Next slide. This is this gentleman that Susan and I was talking about earlier, John Washington Carver, is really a genius. Essentially, we took our call for arms from Tuskegee, from his work at Tuskegee. Essentially, his quote was, "Since new developments are the product of a creative mind, We must stimulate and encourage that type of mind in every possible way. One of the things the 1890s, and this is our coat of arms, we feel that creativity and innovation are really our only competitive, sustainable advantages. Creativity and innovation. And we're looking at the ARS, the science publication y'all just published that said the same thing as about creativity and innovation. Next slide, please. We do have a passion statement. As we were working on the strategic agenda a couple of years ago, we said we don't have a passion. What are we passionate about? 1890s, we're passionate about individuals, families, and businesses in rural and urban communities, particularly those communities that are low income, low wealth communities, underserved communities, and marginalized. That's our clientele that we typically work with. Of course, we work with all individuals and families in our service area, but we have a particular focus on those that are low income, underserved, and marginalized, because that's our lived experience. So we're based on our lived experience in addition to scientific expertise. For the next 7 slides, I was going to go quite briefly about our program areas. We have essentially 7 program areas in this plan. First one is the individual is to empower individuals, families, and communities by increasing the knowledge and skill base and developing behaviors to address the daily quality of life issues. That's our priority goal number 1. Number 2 is improve the health, nutrition, and wellness issues confronting local and global worldwide communities, typically working on health disparities and food deserts as our focus areas. As you see later, we have a number of centers of excellence, and the centers of excellence associated with most of these priority areas. But essentially, priority area deals with health, nutrition, and wellness. Priority 3 deals with local, global food and nutrition security. I mentioned a few minutes ago that for the health and wellness priority area program thrust, we have a center of excellence that's hosted at Southern University. And all 1890s participate with that center, but the host is at Southern University. This particular priority area, looking at local food security and regional food security, as well as global food security. This center of excellence hosted at University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and Pat knows a lot about Eastern Shore. Essentially, nutrition security is just as important as food security, and we view food security as national security. If you can't feed yourself, you can't defend yourself. So we have a particular focus on, again, food deserts. We're looking at food security and nutrition security as a program area thrust number 3. Our 4th program area deals with viability, sustainability, and competitiveness, as well as the profitability of small and medium scale agriculture. We're also looking at small woodlots and also agroforestry in this area as well. And this Center of Excellence is actually hosted at Tuskegee University. They have a Center for Small Farms at Tuskegee that was funded as a Center of Excellence. And Tuskegee has really been working on small farms ever since George Washington Carver and beyond. So our 4th priority area is dealing with sustainability and also the viability of small scale agriculture, as well as small woodlots, as well as agroforestry. The 5th program area deals with creating prosperity and promoting economic development. This deals with communities. In the 1890s, our stakeholders and our citizens, a number of them live in rural communities that lack the financial resources to prosper, and also we promote economic development. And a lot of the issue we deal with is poverty, food deserts, low income, lack of infrastructure, and a lot, even education now is an issue. Now going to along with distance learning, online learning, it also creates another barrier for the 1890 region in terms of having broadband access to that facility as well. So economic development and creating prosperity is priority number 5. Priority number 6 deals with the nexus of food, energy, and water. These resources are critically important to the country as well as the 1890 region, particularly water. Either you have too much water or too little water, small amounts of water. Energy in terms of bioenergy, biodiversity as well in terms of food, talk about that. So there's an intersection of food, energy, and water. There's a lot of intellectual excitement about those two areas as well. Also, NSF also has an area, no, the National Academy of Sciences rather, also has a focus on food, energy, and water. So we're looking at the availability of food and different energy sources for the 1890 region and beyond. Then the last priority area deals with the natural resources and environment. We're focusing on climate change as one of the areas. Again, environmental stewardship is critically important. And the Center of Excellence associated with environment and natural resources is hosted by Tennessee State University in climate change. Also, as we go through these priorities, you saw the 7 priority areas. In the fall of next year, we're going to look at a research refresh. Because we're going to look at these areas and say, do we need to modify them? Do we need to change directions? Do we need to look at thrust areas? Definitely to add more focus on the area of climate change in our program area, probably program area number 7, wherever it may fall out at, but we do have a special focus on climate change. And also, we're going to have probably an area on artificial intelligence, AI. Where is that going? So that's some of the things we're working on. So the next slide deals with Farm Bill and budget priorities. If we look at these slides, this is as we sort of focus on the 2023 Farm Bill. Hopefully it'll be passed within the first quarter of next year, as well as budget priorities. Since you want to reauthorize our Evans Islands appropriation, that's the appropriation for research. And typically now we receive 30% of Hatch funding, and we want to increase that to 40%. Currently we're probably at about 28% of Hatch. Right now we receive $89 million per year in Evans Islands funding. However, our request was for 100 million. So of course we didn't get our requested amount for the FY24 appropriations. And of course, since there's a continuing resolution, we're at last year's funding, which is not too bad because our last year's funding was 89 million as well. We also want, given the number of now 1890s that now have doctoral programs, and those with a master's programs, we want for tuition and fees to be allowable expense. So right now we can only afford research assistantships. We want to have tuition and fees as allowable expense from our Evans Islands appropriations. I also want to reauthorize Crawford extension from 20% of Smith Lever to 40% of Smith Lever. I want to reauthorize our 1890 capacity building grants programs, as well as the facilities improvement program as well. Next slide also deals with budget and Farm Bill priorities. I want to reauthorize those 6 centers of excellence. Again, climate change, climate smart agriculture. These are the new centers. In addition to the 6 centers I mentioned earlier, we also want to request 4 additional centers. Climate change and climate smart agriculture is one of the centers. Forestry resilience and forestry conservation will be a second center. Food safety, bioprocessing, and product development will be a third center. And you probably see bioprocessing and product development probably more prevalent in our research refresh going forward. And also transdisciplinary social science research. One of the things that we sort of looked at over the years and also acknowledged that there's a lack of social science research in the food and agriculture sciences, particularly on climate change and all of the grand challenges. So we want to have a transdisciplinary social science center of excellence to sort of incorporate social sciences in all the major studies and all the major challenges focused on the 1890s. We also want these 10 centers of excellence to be funded at $5 million per center per year. Currently, the centers only receive about $1.5 million per year. And $1.5 million per year is really not enough to run a center of excellence. So we want to increase that. We ask for increased appropriations, not only to reauthorize the 6 existing centers, but also to request 4 additional centers, and all 10 centers will be funded at 10 million, at 5 million per year per center. That's our goal. Also, the reauthorization of the scholarship program has really been a godsend for the 1890s in terms of having been able to offer students in food and agricultural sciences a full ride based on academics. I think the minimum standard is I think it's a 3.0 we're using now. For example, some universities like A&T, they have a minimum of 3.5 to be awarded one of these scholarships. So it varies between 2.8 and 3.5. But essentially, the 1890s receive now about 1 million per year, $500,000 discretionary, and 1/2 mandatory for these funds. So and David Scott has really been our champion in this effort. So we want to and he already introduced it as a marker bill in terms of the $100 million initiative for the scholarships. And also the 10 centers of excellence are also in a marker bill as well. So they're on Congress on the floor as we speak, whenever. Hopefully we'll have a Congress after November the 6th, 17th. The next slide. Also, we really want to support the 1890 Foundation. Currently, they don't receive any funds directly from NIFA or USDA. Their funding comes through the 1890 universities, and so but they really give us a lot of technical assistance in terms of the centers of excellence and sort of being being sort of the hub for all the centers of excellence as we do. And they also coordinate our competitive grants program as well. We also want to phase out the 1-to-1 state match. Phase out the waiver rather. Currently now each state can waive up to 50% of the match. In other words, if say Oklahoma, which Oklahoma is currently doing, if they match Langston 50% of the federal appropriation, they're in compliance. Right now, we want to eliminate the waiver. They had to provide the match at 1-to-1 as opposed to 0.5-to-1. And also, if you look at down at that 4th bullet, I should have had that next. Essentially, is currently, if a state right now, the 3 states that do not receive their full match is Langston University, Florida A&M University. I think of the 3rd one before this session ends, but those 2 do not receive the match. Generally, if they do not receive the match, then the university has to write an explanation of why they didn't receive the match. We want them to shift that burden of proof to the states as opposed to the institution. For example, let the governor of Oklahoma indicate to the federal government why they match Oklahoma State 4-to-1 and can't match Langston 1-to-1, or ask Governor DeSantis why he can match University of Florida 8-to-1 and cannot match FAMU 1-to-1. So the burden of proof should be, the burden of the documentation should be on the states and not the universities. Of course, we want the eliminate the waiver for talk about that. That's the same thing. And then the 4th one is competitive grants, either remove or reduce the matching requirements. For example, right now it's hard for the 1890s to compete on a national basis or on a large grant basis if matching funds are required. We don't have the funds to match it. And also too, it will level the playing field. Should be, but we don't have the money that we need to be competitive on the matching arena. So either remove or reduce the matching requirements as well. Then the next slide. This is our major, I guess, our multi-state project that we're working on with 1890 started in the last fall, dealing with climate change. And this, again, this is one of our major initiatives going forward. We plan to be working on climate change for a number of years. As mentioned by USDA and a number of other federal agencies, climate change is an existential threat to our survival, our human existence. If we don't mitigate climate change, the universe may not exist. It will not be inhabitable for humans. So we see that as an existential threat if we don't mitigate climate change. And this particular project is focusing on those underserved farmers, or called socially disadvantaged farmers, which they don't like that name, underserved landowners and communities of color. And you see the 4 goals. And from the beginning of this project, Pat Millner at ARS has been working with University of Maryland to Shore on this project as well. So ARS has been involved in this project since the planning stages in 2023. So essentially, the first goal is about soil health. You see, you have 5 objectives. 18 institutions working on this with 40 scientists. You see, goal 2 deals with water and water change assessments. Goal 3 deals with environmental justice, which a lot of federal agencies, it's a government-wide initiative on Justice 40 and environmental justice. And we're looking at environmental justice since our target audience is underserved farmers, landowners, and communities of color. That's going to be all 19 schools are working on this particular objective. Then goal 4 deals with the policy. What are the current climate change policies helpful to low-income communities and communities of color? So those are the 4 major goals of this project. Again, this is beginning of our 2nd year of implementation, and essentially we plan on getting baseline data for the climate mitigation efforts in the 1890s, particularly among this clientele, and to use it to form a baseline database to go after more competitive funds, larger grants like AFRI and other agencies as well. But these are the 4 goals we're working on. So in terms of the AgBioData unit, particularly goals 2 and 3 are probably particularly important. Interested in the social science aspect of it, goal 3 and 4 are important. Again, we're definitely looking for partners and collaboration. And also, as you become more interested in this, I can sort of send you some specifics about what objectives and how ARS can help us in this regard. The next slide deals with areas of collaboration partnering. As Lucy and I was talking about this, ARS has been really a major partner of 1890's in the past. Started with, I was trying to think of who was the ARS administrator prior to Jacob Young. I can't think of his name. I can see his face and think of his name. Anyway, the administrator of ARS prior to Jacob Young sort of got the ball rolling. And then Jacob Young continued it. Dr. Lewis continued it. Of course, Pat is being very involved. I also talked to Trapman. Was it Tracy Trapman? She's very supportive of 1890's as well. There may be some other ones, but that's the only thing. That's the only names that Lewis and I come up with this weekend. I put Dunn beside it because it's already done. I really could put Dunn beside everything on this particular slide. The ARS has a 1890 faculty research sabbatical program. I think the 1890's I think there's been like 30 plus awards, but we need to do a better, Lewis and I need to do a better job. Ed Kippening, that's it. Ed Kippening, that's the person. All right, Ed Kippening started it off in terms of my recent memory, and then Jacob Young and the rest of them continued it. 1890's need to do a better job applying for this sabbatical program. One thing I didn't know until this year was that it was like you could do it like in 2 parts. You could set up into two sessions, not all one continuous session, which probably more attractive. Also, I know about ARS postdoctoral program. I don't know exactly what our success rate is, how many applied. We need to look at that more. Also, I know there are some laboratories located at 1890 facilities. I need to I actually need to do I get either as ARS or our research directors. I know there's one at Delaware when I was at Delaware State for 7 years. I know there's one on Delaware State's campus. And also ARS has really been supportive of our research symposium. I was telling Susan earlier, I was talking to Simon Liu at the FAR symposium, FAR annual meeting 2 weeks ago, and he's already committed to a gold sponsorship for ARS, which is the 25,000 level. So ARS also supported the 2022 symposium at the gold level as well. So thank you for that support. The next slide deals with joint meetings. I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, the 1890 research directors started meeting jointly with the extension administrators. So this year our meeting is on January 24th, 26th in Nashville at the Opryland Inn. ARS invited by with this presentation, Lewis and I are inviting ARS to participate in this meeting. You can and basically sort of go over some of the programs that you already have. I would get more engaged, and you can either present in the joint session with the extension administrators and the research directors together, or in just the ARD session. So 24th through the 26th, put it on your calendar. If anyone, any representative can come, feel free to come. Also, as Lewis and I was talking about this weekend, early last week, I don't know, we have a scientist in residence program, but if an ARS scientist can come and spend a semester on campus, or you may have an ARS retired scientist who may want to come on campus, that's something that would be very helpful to the 1890 community, and we can talk about it. Also, ARS scientists can be on our PhD committees or our MS committees. Let's talk. So if that's possible, I think that would enhance the collaboration, having a ARS scientist on campus and like scientists in residence program or faculty in residence program. Also serving on doctoral committees and master committees would also be good. Joint projects and research initiatives, capitalizing on the strengths of both ARS and ARD would be good as we think about. I know that with AgBioData, and you mentioned, like when Pat was introducing the session, you talked about genomics. That would be a great collaboration initiative as well. Shared resources, specialized equipment. I know to the extent that can be done, but specialized equipment, as you know, is quite expensive. Anything that we can share equipment, or maybe we have some samples and data, we can come to one of your labs and actually use that lab to do it. Again, I just mentioned the climate change and multi-state projects. Again, we're just getting that project. I know Pat is already participating in this with UMES. But again, as we sort of move this project along, we definitely, ARS can definitely be a partner in this project as well. Also, we just started, we're just forming an 1890 AI working group. AI is really now becoming a topic, a lot of potential, maybe a lot of risks as well. As we sort of go through this area, that would be a good thing just to help. And hopefully we have our first meeting sometime before the year's over. But we are definitely forming an AI working group. Okay. Next slide. Our needs. I'm sure this first one comes as a surprise. Natural resources, both federal and state. There's a couple of articles. I'm like one the White House published, taken from Politico or one of the magazines. Essentially, this is talking about matching funds, state matching funds. If over the last 30 years, it's been estimated that the 1890s have a $13 billion shortfall in funding. But think about it. In other words, $13 billion over 30 years is a lot of money. So with states not matching and not receiving our appropriate share of Hatch and Smith Lee respectively, There's like a $13 billion shortfall over the last 30 years. That's a large gap. Again, some states are beginning to address that. I know in North Carolina this year, the governor and both chambers of the legislature approved North Carolina A&T at a 2-to-1 match. South Carolina's on a similar path. I think Tennessee State is on a similar path. So it's moving, but it have a long ways to go. Again, we're talking about eliminate away the matching requirements on grants. Infrastructure facilities is definitely a need. As I mentioned to Dr. Liu last week, what is your secret sauce for getting ARS facilities? He said he don't have a secret sauce, but if we know one, let him know. So that's a need, I guess, both ARS and 1890's. Also, Luce and I was talking about too is contracts and quota agreements. In other words, we noticed some funds where ARS and other federal agencies can do a contract with an 1890 or quota agreement without going through the competitive grants process. So looking at contracts with 1890's or quota agreements will be a need that we will have. Also, with faculty and staff, we really don't have any bench strength. If you think about our soil scientists, our natural scientists, and animal science and plant science, we're probably only one or two people deep at most. So as we start to increase our funding, we still want to increase our faculty and staff. So talent acquisition would be a major need of ours. So if you have an ARS scientist in residence program, that would help us with well. Again, it's a build meaningful partnerships and collaborations with ARS to leverage our limited resources. Again, you know, we do have partnerships, we are collaborating. Again, let's see how we can expand and leverage those resources more. The next slide is the last one about needs, I think, is what we're doing today, like seminars, webinars, workshops on ways to position 1890's to be more competitive in grants. Like I said, the AgBioData group won't have a specific session with our scientists will be great. More seed grant opportunities will be great. It would please ARD if ARS would visit our campuses, get more campus visits. I know some of this was going on prior to COVID. After COVID, that was not, I guess they haven't resumed. So anyway, campus visits would be helpful. And as Lucy and I was talking, the next business meeting we have in January, we're gonna sign one of our research directors to be a liaison with ARS. And token is ARS can also participate in our ARD business meetings. That way, as we have a business, we'll let you know. Some meetings probably is not of interest to ARS, but essentially, if ARS will have a liaison, ARD will have a liaison, then we can sort of did everything related to ARS. That ARD liaison will be responsible for to send the rest of the director. So we think that liaison will be good as well. And the next slide, I guess you go back to the previous slide. One thing I forgot to say is that I know there's not an ARS facility at any of the 1890 institutions. I know I was talking, I think it was a month ago, it was announced that's gonna be like $100+ million facility at a land grant somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. I forgot which one. They may have been Washington State. I'm thinking we could probably start discussions. Typically, if you're talking about I was looking at the press release for that one. So it was like a 10-year planning period. It took them like 10 years of planning to actually get that facility on their campus. I'm thinking we can start now. Maybe I'll probably retire, but Lewis probably won't be retired. Maybe before one of us retire, have a major underway Pullman, right? New facility in Pullman. If you start planning now, given think maybe 5 to 10 years or so, we can look at a facility at the 1890 campus. That was in my, I don't know what happened where. I add it later. The next slide. This is a future ARS employee. All right, so look at this young man. He is my godson. That's Lloyd Walker's. He's the research director at Alabama A&M and Dean. That's his grandson. So in X number of years in the future, he will be an ARS scientist. All right, in the AgBioData group. Mark that, Susan. So we can do questions at the end. This not be. I'm glad to entertain any questions at the end.
Well, Alton, let me jump in. Let me jump in right quick.
Okay.
Before we go to questions. I just want to expand a little bit on what Dr. Thompson was saying. He talked about a lot of stuff, but I need y'all to keep in mind that the ARD community, the 1890s, are 19 research directors from all the actual 1890 universities. And collectively, we've done assessments and we've talked about what are the pressing needs for not only our communities, but for the country. And I think Dr. Thompson kind of talked about them. But I just want to just kind of let y'all know where we feel our expertise is and things that we can contribute to just a greater body of knowledge as far as science goes. And health disparities is one. And we've looked at health disparities and divided it into five different areas. One, poverty is the main cause. So we have people working on poverty, talk about environmental threats, inadequate access to healthcare, individual behavior factors, and educational inequities. So all those kind of lead to your health disparities. You know, the second thing, talking about small farmers, is a really, really big deal for us. That's why bread and butter has been since our inception. But people don't really know that 89% of all farmers are considered small. So, and it's kind of laid out as 179 acres or less, or $250,000 in gross sales. So it's only 10% of the farmers that's in the United States that are really large farmers. Everybody else falls into the categories that we actually work with. And the third thing, climate change. Climate change is something, you know, we've gotten large awards for that. We're working in that. As Dr. Thompson was saying, we have a climate working group that all 1890s participated in, a multi-state grant that we're working on as far as that. And we're looking at the causes of climate change, generating power, you know, burning of fossil fuels is at the top of the list. Manufacturing goods. Last time you passed by a manufacturing facility and smoke one coming out of the top of it. Cutting down forests, you know, development. I know just here in South Carolina, everyone is moving here to Hilton Head, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and we've lost 1 million acres to development. So that's just in our state. So across the country, when you think about the boom that's happening as far as housing goes, cutting down forests is just at such an enormous rate. Using transportation. I see it's a push to move to electric, but you know, transportation pollutes. The gas and diesel engines are still out there and that sort of thing. And then just U.S. as a whole, just consuming too much. We consume so much, we waste a lot of food. You know, we just over consumers of the natural resources. And then, you know, you talk about water. So now we talk about water. It's predicted that 40 of the 50 states will have a water shortage in 10 years. That's not far off. 40 out of 50 states will have a water shortage. So we're starting to look at water usage and those kind of things. I know out west, California and all y'all areas out there and all in the West and Midwest, y'all really fighting over water. But what we finding in the South, and I just left a meeting not too long ago with the Department of Agriculture, a lot of the companies are located here because we don't have the water standards. But what we're finding is the aquifers are being drained right now with these large companies coming south because we don't have the same water standards. So we're going to be in the same situation that they are in California and out west if we don't put some things in place. So the companies are taking a look at who has the most lax water standards and that sort of thing, and that's how they're picking where they're going to locate, even though they mask it under the cover of tax breaks and those kind of things. The underlying factor is, do they have access to the water? So we're looking at the water shortages and those kind of things. But, you know, we talk about the hard sciences, the hard sciences and that sort of thing, some things we have expertise in and that we need to really be a great partnership with ARS would be genetic modification of plants, would be a real good area. You know, Dr. Thompson talked about AI, technology infusion into agriculture, organic or chemical-free products. Food safety and health, and then your biotechnology. So those are areas that we have expertise in, and that will be a good starting point to kind of talk about some joint projects and some things like that. I know here in South Carolina, our ARS facility in Florence, Dr. Segoji, we work close with him, work well with him, a lot of different things and that sort of thing. We have a vegetable laboratory here right in North Charleston also that we work with. So I think in South Carolina, we do a pretty good job working with ARS. I don't think that happens. It doesn't happen like we do it in South Carolina and other states. And I think just to start those conversations locally will be a good start in some of these areas where they have the expertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to turn to Dr. Pat Millner, who successfully navigated many of these relationships that we're going to hear about on the ground, how she did it. We're very excited to hear from Pat.
Now I got to figure out how to work this screen business.
Do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay. So I'm going to talk about what the theme of this title of this conference is. It's building relationships with the 1890 community, and that has different kind of elements. So it's like, how do you do this, and what's it about? Who do you do this with, and why are we doing it? When and where? And this kind of builds off of a presentation that I made to some research leaders earlier this year here at ARS. So this was a training exercise that they put on for the unit leaders within the region here in the Northeast. But there's some elements of it that I drew on from my experience in dealing with the 1890 community over the, I don't know, a couple of decades now. And so it's a lot to me, it seems kind of common sense kind of things, but we'll go over it and see what the contributions can be here now. You could go to the next slide. So there's some core things. This is, I took a lot of these pictures off of the UMES website, but it goes for almost all of the different universities and institutions, because there's a wide variety of different research, extension, education activities on all kinds of different subjects. And these are all subjects, in some way or other, do actually impact on projects that ARS scientists are involved with. And the larger research community way beyond just ARS. So it's easy for me to see how there are really some excellent opportunities for collaborations to be developed. But that takes something. It takes discussion, and it takes reaching out, and it takes a willingness to take some time out of all our busy schedules to sit down and talk with one another. And somebody mentioned earlier, I think Alton mentioned about how COVID had a big effect on this. And I see this almost every week. And that is that during COVID, we all got locked into doing things so much on our own, and through these technological Zoom and Meets and Google things, we forgot how to talk to one another, how to have a one-to-one conversation. And there is a huge value in that. And I think we need to emphasize that, re-emphasize it to our constituent communities, as well as to the students. And there's elements of this that apply to students as well. Next slide. So what is the thing that links us together? Well, we're all talking about food and the environment in one respect or another, and they're all interlinked. And that's the common core things that I think we need to recognize and highlight in this. And we should highlight it not only to ourselves, but to the students, to the undergraduate students, to the graduate students, to the postdocs that are available in our different laboratories and activities, to the faculty, to all the people that we interact with, the administrators in particular, because sometimes we can understand how this all fits together, but they don't quite see the picture. And that's where the communication needs to go. It needs to refine this and clarify it so that the administrative people, the grant reviewers, all the people that are involved in some aspect of the process can get a clear picture of how these components fit together and how that can help build a more robust system. Next slide. So we're back to communication, that this is really the key and universal tool to progress and success. Success for individuals, success for institutions, and success for progress. That's what we're looking for. And communication, to me, is absolutely fundamental. And we need this communication not just in the educational sector and not just between scientists. We need it cross-disciplinary. We need it between administrators and the scientific staff, between the students and the professors, between the extension people and the research people. Those are, pardon me, keys to how do we show the impact of what it is that we're doing. Because let's face it, when we are writing things for grants, we need to have our eye on the ball. What's the impact that this is going to have? What is that problem? Those key things that this is going to help solve. And what's the impact of that resolution? And those are the kind of things that we need to train the young people to think about when they're thinking about their own research projects and how they're going to get funding and how we're going to get funding to do all the things that we outline that we say we need to do. We need to be excellent communicators. Next slide, please. So who are and where do we come with these communications? Who do we communicate with? Well, we can communicate with anybody within our purview and the community, but we have an opportunity, almost all the researchers, the faculty, the staff, the administrators, all of those people in both ARS institutions and groups, as well as all the 1890 colleges, at some point or other, they're all going to some kind of conference meeting, like the ARD meetings, the scientific meetings that each of the disciplinary groups sponsor throughout the year. And they all have, even NEFA has meetings for the grantees and the training sessions. There are all kinds of different opportunities to interact here. And those are the places where I think are a lot of missed opportunities. It's not just talking to those that we're familiar with. The opportunity is missed if we don't talk to the people that we've never talked to before. So, for example, when we go to a scientific meeting, there are all kinds of different sessions that go on, and we go to learn new information, hear about what new trends and activities are going on in certain disciplinary areas. But after we listen to the talks, and we're busy to get to the next talk or something, do we ever reconnect with the speakers one-on-one? That's where you can form some opportunities for collaborations. We talk about contracts, we talk about cooperative agreements, we talk about grants, we talk about how to put together big initiatives, but how do we know what people are really thinking about unless we talk to them directly? And these are the places that I think I've had the most success with, is actually going up, making a first overture and trying to create an opportunity to discuss what seems like a mutually agreeable and interest area that people are talking about when they go to these meetings. People get up and they talk about whatever their research is and what kind of things that has led them to and what they expect to produce going down the line, what those goals are in the long run. And once you hear what some people are thinking about, it's an opportunity to take them aside after the meeting, that session is over, and get to know them. Tell them something about what you're doing and how what they're doing kind of fits in with some of that, and where you see some possibilities. It's worth discussing about that. It's worth also training students to talk about things like this and to ask them to engage with some of the speakers. Don't be afraid. They're there to share. They want to actually have a conversation with people about what they're doing. Most of the students and scientists who are going to some of these meetings, they're really interested in talking about the research and the activities that they're doing, whether it's extension work or whether it's some educational approach, or just some research topic that they're interested in and they want to share with you. But all of them are up there because they really are dedicated to that topic that they're interested in sharing with people. That was the reason for them coming and doing a presentation. This goes for workshops too. You know, Extension offers many, many workshops, and they're always looking for new ideas on workshops and how to bundle that and get support for that, because those workshops have to be supported by grants and a cross-sectional approach. So I say this is our communication pathway. Just look around and participate. Reach out. Don't be afraid of reaching out. And I know a lot of scientists are kind of bashful and they're maybe not the social butterflies that some others are, but there's an opportunity there. Think of it that there you have an opportunity to create an alliance and possibly a whole new avenue of a group, an organizational group that could compete for new funding in one of the granting opportunities that are offered. Next slide. So this just sort of is a summation of this idea about the pathways. There's all kinds of seminars and workshops and focus events, but there are also opportunities with graduate committees. So it's possible to have some of the ARS scientists invite them to participate in serve on a graduate committee. There's also opportunities to have some of the students come for internships, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. The internship opportunities, as well as having internship coordinators at each one of the institutions with ARS scientists. And so there's some things here that maybe could stimulate closer interactions on certain particular pathways where you know that there's a scientific collaboration that's possible, and you want to foster that with opportunities for the students. So this can be within the research arena, or it can be within an extension opportunity. And this can come into fulfilling some of the activities that need to be explained in a grant proposal. So it's important also to keep all parts of the different systems involved. So like in ARS, at each one of the locations there and the areas, there is a person who is responsible for outreach to all different kinds of collaborators. And so you want to keep those people involved and let them know that you're out there and you're what kind of special activities you would like to invite some people to your campuses to have a discussion about what some opportunities would be. Certainly the department heads, the deans, those people would be really good contacts to develop with the ARS leadership at any of the locations, as well as within just the research units. We would like to have more collaboration with the employment opportunities, because we're looking for students as opportunity for them to apply for positions. And over time, there's a lot of opportunities for hiring. And we're getting big turnover with a number of people retiring, and that's going to be continuing. So we need to have a pipeline of students, technical help that can come in to fill some of these, a variety of different level of positions. Next slide, please. And we would hope that we could have contacts with career specialists that are located at the universities, so we can explain what kinds of positions are available at ARS. We want to have a whole range of different students, not just agricultural students, because we have lots of different types of jobs. We also have data data management jobs. There's, as you spoke a few minutes ago about AI, there are a number of different opportunities in that area. That's something that's a really big area of the development. The other thing that I have had a benefit of is working with the Manners group. I like that they're really emphasizing the leadership development amongst the students. And this is a really important thing, that not every student organization does this, but this Manners group is really excellent at doing this. And those are very helpful skills that the students bring to not just whatever their technical specialty is, but it's those so-called softer skills, which in the long term can be a lot more substantive skills. Next slide. One of the things that to kind of emphasize the importance of having a follow-up to what happens to the students at your institution once they graduate. And what I've learned is that some institutions have pretty good follow-up to the students that graduate with a bachelor's degree. And whoops. So what happens to them? What kind of jobs do they get? Are they employed full-time, part-time? Do they continue their education? Do they go on to volunteer? Do they go into business? What happens? So some surveys have been done at the College Park campus of the University of Maryland. And what's interesting is, what kind of programs did they participate in before they graduated? So next slide. So did they participate in any internships? 75% of the respondents participated in at least one internship during their time at the University of Maryland. A majority of them actually completed 2 internships. 77% of the respondents that participated in these internships reported that they had at least one as a paid internship. And 36 reported having had at least one internship for academic credit. This is an astounding thing. It shows the value of that because these are the students that actually got good employment, permanent type positions. Next slide, please. In addition to those kinds of things to keep track of and to try to promote internships, which the USDA-ARS does sponsor that, sometimes individually by individual research units, which the unit that I'm affiliated with has done this through the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. And I think that's a growing program within the ARS. They're allowed to do this. But there's also this USDA 1890 National Scholars Program. I'm not going to go into all the details of this, but it's an annual program, and it really does offer a wonderful opportunity for students to compete for this. And that we've known a number of individuals who've had very good success in competing for this. So I would encourage people at the different institutions to strengthen the acknowledgement and advertising of this program for the students. Next slide. There are different eligibilities. A few of them are listed here. And it is open to high school seniors that are about to enter their freshman year of college, as well as to college sophomores and juniors. And this is something that can help them with their tuition and their overall program as they look toward graduation. And it covers a wide range of disciplines. So it's agriculture, food, natural resource sciences, and any of the related things, which could, in the terms of where we're going with climate change and nutrition research, there's a huge area there, including data. So data management. I would encourage people to think about really pushing the advertisement of this program at the universities. Next slide, please. So we're also offering, as I said, in our environmental microbial and food safety program at Beltsville, we're offering these summer internship programs. And we have an idea, this just gives you a rundown of the different areas in which we're fostering opportunities to learn. It covers a huge swath of activities. You can, I think you'll get a copy of these later, so give you an idea of what kinds of topics are covered. Next slide. There also are these ARS postdoctoral fellowship programs in the big data science and AI research area. And this is through the ARS SciNet and AI Center of Excellence, which offers a collaborative, and this is also somewhat operated through the Oak Ridge National Lab fellowship program. So we give some money to the ORISE so we can hire these people to actually work in artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other areas of high performance computing and so on. And they're actually assigned to projects that are of national importance. Next slide, please. So this is just a little short list of some of the opportunities and the locations where they were. It gives you some idea of the different kinds of programs that these postdoc and master fellowships in these AI SciNet areas offer. And some of them are over here at the National Agricultural Library, but some of them are in other locations around the country. Next slide, please. So overall, I want to wrap up with the idea that this notion of communication, in my view, is part of the key to success. And the communication is a two-way street. In other words, it's ARS scientists and administrators to reach out. And I know we've got some efforts underway to do that, just as you've heard the former speakers here talk about, the ARD has their initiative to reach out to ARS and try to strengthen the collaborations that are possible. Next slide. And so we end up with, what are the questions? Thank you all, and appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all about these programs.
I want to thank our speakers today. We've kind of run out of time, unfortunately, but will it be possible for us to reach out to our speakers with questions?
Sure.
I think one of our main questions will probably be how best to connect. You know, who might be good people to connect with. I know our particular working group made some initial contacts just informally through email. That was not successful. So we definitely are looking for good techniques to make solid connections with folks. We were trying to reach out, I think, to employment offices, you know, student placement offices, things like that. And that just was not the best avenue for connections. So again, I want to thank our speakers. This was very informative, and we will certainly be discussing how we can best leverage the resources and opportunities that have been offered to us today. Anna-Rita, do you want to say any final words?
No, that was great. I'm just gonna share the recording on our platform. And do I have the permission also to share your slide deck? The
Yes.
slide that you share with me? Okay, yes, thank you. And maybe I will also share the link of your personal page in case people would like to have follow-up question with you.
Sure.
Or to you.
That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, we have John. John, is there anything you would like to add? John's one of our key people on our committee.
Okay.
Yes, again, I want to thank you for your time and apologize for the poor turnout. But I do think I put a bunch of things in the chat, some of which you're probably aware of. A couple of things that I would really direct your attention to is the Board on Ag and Natural Resources study on collaboration among land-grant universities.
Okay.
They were specifically called out to be more integrated with the 1890 schools. One of the things I mentioned in there, you know, it's the same for all of us. If this continues to be a zero-sum game, then, you know, we're just going to be competing. I think we need to be creative. And one of the things for facilities, for example, rather than competing across the states and land grants in 1890s, let's build shared facilities. Let's start that. You know, you mentioned about bold new ideas.
Right.
Let's work on that part.
Okay.
So I'll follow up with a few of you. One that I think has great importance for education, it's just getting started, is the administrative and Congress request for a National Academy study on building rural STEM workforce. And the first committee meeting is just 2 weeks away. But you just mentioned, Pat, you just mentioned that, for example, that high school fellowship.
Right.
That those kinds of things, you know, connecting those students in there early.
Yeah.
And both you, Dr. Thompson, Dr. Whiteside, you mentioned, you know, we all did, you know, working on the problem, you know,
Right.
working on the goals and looking at things that way rather than we need money in this kind of facility, this kind of facility,
Right.
this kind of facility, that kind of thing. So I'll follow up with you. I think there's some topics for, you know, you gave a good example of what you're already doing.
Right.
And I know, and I put a few things in the chat. It seems to me that USDA is directing a fair bit of funds lately toward small, rural, underserved groups.
Absolutely.
And that might be something that we can follow up on. So thanks for your time. Thanks, Susan and Anna-Rita, for pulling this together. We'll be talking soon.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.